All right, and it's live. So I was going to break this down into a series of videos. I decided instead just to do a live stream because, I don't know, I didn't feel like trying to slice this up into different pieces. Well, so I said, hey, why not? It's Sunday, so why not do a live stream? Maybe some people are home, maybe people want to watch, and I was going to walk through a few things here. And there's, I just finished the Sunday Morning Linux Review. We just published a podcast and everything else. So it's all fresh on my mind. And so there's a show before the show. There's the show after the show. And a show after the show is us debriefing on security topics sometimes. And we get into details we can't talk about publicly because it's related to our jobs or security work we're doing for a client. And but I thought at least I'd cover some of the face palminess that came out of the discussions. So I'm going to start with Cisco. And I just want to start with this RV320 hack. I covered it before. It's a disaster. And not a disaster just in scale and scope because of 9,000 routers on January 26th, and this was covered. It's how they fixed it, and that's where your mind is going to be boggled. So the folks over at Red Team Pen Testing, who originally found the Cisco RV320 unauthenticated configuration export. It's as bad as that sentence sounds, is as bad as this is. It's a high CVE, I think 9.8 on the scale here. It's a really bad vulnerability in the Cisco routers. Fix none. That's a great way to describe how fix. It's not even a fix. So let's cover exactly what Cisco did to fix this problem. The proof of concept code involved using curl. Curl is a command line tool that allows you to grab and pull data out as a web browser, so to speak. And it's integrated in many, many scripts because it's a great way to pull things and, grab a data file, download an ISO, whatever, in your script so you can get and move data around. It's a web agent from the command line, essentially. They fixed it by this piece of code. If HTTP user agent is curl, return a 403, as in not, they're blocking curl. That was their solution. And let me show you how facepalmy this is. I'm going to do my proof of concept in real time here. So we see up here, this is my IP address, 192.168.3.9. And this is the command I issued, curl 192.168.2.2. So I went over and curled that network. And it put this right here. So matter of fact, I can do it again. So I'll just up arrow, curl. And so here we are. It shows this is you're watching a real-time log. This is a separate server on the top from the one on the bottom. So what Cisco did was, hey, if we see user agent curl, this is the user agent part. If we see user agent curl, make sure you return nothing. So let me show you how easy it is to bypass this. Totally not. We'll spell curl wrong. Curl. There we go. Totally not curl up here. That is all you have to do to bypass that. So Cisco issued a firmware fix by simply blocking the agent name from the, so it filters for the agent name and stops curl from running. Well, that's not a fix at all. They certainly didn't put the best and brightest on this. I can't believe it happened. So that's not a fix at all. Blocking the user agent pulling does not fix the underlying security issue that allowed any user agent to pull all of your configuration data. So being by adding a -A to curl for totally not curl as a defined user agent. Thanks, Cisco. They just got to remove the word security. If this is the way they're handling things, that you have to remove the word security from your name. You can't call anything security if that's the type of fixes you're doing. So it's just mind-numbing. We're all like, oh my gosh, what? So there's some craziness there, and I didn't know if it deserved a whole video because it's really the same hack. The mitigation wasn't to fix the underlying problem. It was literally just to block the user agent. And this is detailed out in this here. I've detailed all this. I'll leave the links here. I'll drop them right now. We'll drop some links in here just to create it. So let me so you guys can facepalm and read it. So I'm not, I don't hide my sources. So here's the Cisco attack. RV320 not mitigated. So there's our first little piece of show notes. So that's just something I wanted to share. I figured I'd do it in a live stream here and talk about that. And this is just, that's just messy. Now, let's dig into my next topic I want to talk about. And I have a person who on Twitter is a big fan of the MikroTik. Let me go over to my tweets here. My Twitter's public if anyone wants to follow me. I'm fairly responsive on Twitter, less responsive on some of the other media platforms, just so you know, because I don't have time to keep up all of them. Anyways, where are we at here with MikroTik, who definitely had some issues right here. So now, people tell me, well, MikroTik is not for the not for the faint of heart here. It's not for end users. I get that argument from people, and I get it. They are not as simple to configure. They do not have wonderful documentation. This is also why I don't see them. They're a solution for people who are on a very limited budget. I need something cheap that works. Okay, you're cash poor, time rich. You're time rich because you have time to learn the MikroTik system and deal with some of the intricacies of it. And then you're cash poor, so you can afford a system that has some of these challenges. And that's fine. I don't fault you for wanting to do that, but when MikroTik won't address the fact that IPv6 will not work properly on their system because there's a security flaw that they won't fix, it's been around for almost a year, and then on April 9th, the person's dropping it, and after April 9th, if you're running there, so any WISP running IPv6, if you don't have it turned off, it will be turned off, well, maybe by someone else, and this could only lead to a possible privilege escalation. So let me explain what's going on here. The IPv6 stack does not have a, a proper handling, I guess, of malformed IPv6 packets. So it runs the kernel out of memory. When a kernel runs out of memory, it crashes. That is often the first step in figuring out an exploit, getting the system to crash and figuring out how do we make it crash differently, or how do we inject something in there. So there currently at this moment is not anything more than a crash. But obviously this is a big problem. And I bet as of right now, as of yesterday, it wasn't fixed. Yes, this is at the kernel level and very hard to fix. That's nice. That's nice to know. We can't just change to a new kernel. Fair enough. But you see where this is a problem, and this problem is very new. So anybody who has IPv6, I know IPv6 is not the accepted big standard right now, but this is kind of an issue. And it's not about configuration, because some people are like, well, the out-of-the-box configuration what caused some of the problems with other MikroTiks getting hacked because, end users bought them and they didn't properly configure them. Yeah, I blame MikroTik for not having a default that leans towards security, but you're right. It should have been locked down and people unlock things all day long. We get it. This isn't a lockdown issue. I don't care what you do to your firewall. The only solution, the only mitigation is to turn off IPv6. This is a fundamental flaw within the system itself. So that's a, it's an issue. It needs to be addressed. It can't just be like that. So yeah, it's a kernel flaw. It's in the kernel. They need to solve that problem, or here's the problem that I already know and a lot of other people are aware. If a bunch of these are sitting out there and people aren't managing them, and this comes back to that inexpensive problem. The same people, I bet there's a Venn diagram we could design for people who are looking for very inexpensive solutions and people who will not pay for regular managed firmware updates to inexpensive solution. You could draw a Venn diagram around those things. I've talked before, we'll go all the way to Meraki. I know it's a Cisco product, and I'm not a big fan of it personally, but there are some companies that it's probably better that they set it and forget it and let someone else manage updates as one big fee, because they'll never update, they'll never secure things, and it's a big disaster. And we take over clients all the time like this. Well, they were first taken over by some hacking attempt. That usually gets them taken over, which leads them to realize that cheap, inexpensive solution they put in fell apart and went to hell, and now they actually need to pay to manage all the updates and security for their systems. I deal with this all the time with people who don't want to pay for backups. They have some secretary they handed a thumb drive to and go, here, this thumb drive, your job is to back this up. All right, my multi-million-dollar company is safe because I assigned the person who answers the phone to also remember to back up all critical nature of company. So this is the most reality thing that happens all the time that I deal with, that I have it happens a lot more than it should, man. It drives me crazy. And it's just not a thing. So anyways, people say, well, MikroTik aren't for there. If you want to read my Twitter feed, I don't really get into big arguments on Twitter, but I'll debate people about security and things like that. So anyways, now let's talk about the Asus thing, because this is kind of cool. This is, and I want to dive into it in a more in-depth fashion. So let me drag this link over here before we end up with 20 million tabs open. Unleash the hash. And actually, I'll tweet this, because that's a good way to, I'll put it in the show notes, but I'll tweet this in a second as well. Over there. All right. And I think this was really cool because it's two things. One, we now have a list of the 600. I brought this up on the How They Got Hacked episode. If you haven't watched it, we did toss this around and talk about it. And but it's really interesting because what they walk through is how they reverse engineered the Kaspersky tool. So let's break that down. So Kaspersky Shadow Hammer. And enter your MAC address, and you can figure out if your MAC address is on there. Well, Kaspersky also has a download tool. So you can download and see if your MAC address is one of the 600 on the Asus attack, the Asus Shadow Hammer attack. Hey, and once again, hats off to Kaspersky for that type of research they did. That's some good research, being able to find that, the whole Asus problem in general. Pretty amazing. But what these people did was rather clever too. And so they went through and they walk you through in depth how they did reverse engineering of the Kaspersky binary to get these 600 MAC addresses on there. So they have the salt, the hash, the MD5, and they walk you through by having one of being able to reverse it and go through and get that hash out. This is just great. I like the way it works. I like the way this is a really just clever way to get this information. And I think Kaspersky was holding on to it. And as a method, like they want to, the teaser to keep it in the news. I don't think that's a bad idea because the way the news cycles go, it's exciting this moment, and then we forget about it. So if we dumped all the research out at once, you would go, oh, yeah, at one time the Asus got hacked, but someone else got hacked today, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. And so it's one of those, it trickle out the news a little bit, keep it in there. But these people, maybe it's a spoiler, they dumped out the, well, not all of them. They only were able to get, because details matter, what did they say here, 518 or 580 of them? So they got majority of the MAC addresses on there. So yeah, definitely interesting. I found it fascinating. Great work on these people's parts. Let me, while I'm on here, I'll tweet it out. What is it? What is it? Unleash the hash. So we'll throw it in my Twitter. I'll throw it in Twitter later, but still pretty cool. Pretty cool that they did this. It was one of those things I wanted to talk about. Now, the Asus hack itself is still, is Kaspersky not protected by copyright? Kaspersky might be, I'm reading some chat here. Kaspersky's probably, it most definitely has copyright, but this isn't copyright. This is reverse engineering a binary that they gave. Probably not really a copyright thing. All they did was use the binary and make hashes against it to do this. So them reverse engineering it, I don't know if that's a really a copyright violation problem or not. And someone asked me to do this before, and I didn't think to do it when I started the stream, but I can put this right here. I don't know. I thought too hard about how to put the chat in a separate window, and it turns out that's actually kind of easy. I can just stick it up here as a separate window. So let me move this over and drag this so it's only about that wide. Here, now the chat's in a window so people can see it. And if anyone cares, I'll fill in the dead space with me, my head, right there. We're editing live. There we go. So So yeah, game sites get shut down for cheat codes. Yeah, but this isn't really a cheat code. This is not a cheat code as much as it is a MAC address list that they said they're going to release in the future. All Kaspersky did was say they reverse engineered it in malware, but then hashed it, and these guys found a way to unhash it in there. So it's not really a cheat code. But I guess I could see your point. I doubt Kaspersky. I don't know. Maybe they're mad about it. I have no idea. I'm not really sure. So maybe interesting either way, no matter which way you look at it. Now, one of the things about the Kaspersky, and let's go ahead and close a couple things here that I have in the backgrounds. I don't need these. I'm just closing them, and then the chat window will be back. You can see how long your delay is. There we go. All right. So yeah, is a cheat thing? I don't really know, but the Asus thing, and let's talk a little bit about trust keys, because someone had a fair question, and I didn't answer it. I mean, I didn't answer it in Asus video, but I answered it in the comments of the Asus video I did. And one of the things that I want people to understand about Linux, and this is that Linux/Windows security thing. And I figured I want to do this on a live stream because I can get some feedback from people and hear some of your thoughts on it or some of your questions. And what it is when you're doing updates in Linux, and you're doing this within the realm of a Linux system, and you're, let's say, Debian, just my package of choice, all the packages come from Debian. That means if I'm running this on an Asus laptop, I'm not at risk. And why? So the way the trust system works on like a Debian or most of your major Linux distributions do a very similar thing. They go through and they are going to pull from their trusted repositories with signatures. And I think there's actually another site because why is apt not... Why app doesn't use HTTPS? It can, but this is also goes back to the same thing I'm explaining. Does HTTPS guarantee integrity of packages? And people worry about apt-guard, tampering, and things like that. The way it works in the Linux world is you grab the package you want, and it's done with a checksum and a secure hash and a trusted repository format. All of this is related because what it's doing is it's securely pulling the data only from the Debian repositories. So it's pulling that data. When you run something in Windows, Windows works under a different principle. And this is why it's not as easy. People like to poke fun and Microsoft's not secure, blah, blah, blah. But they have a different model to deal with because they never had, because it didn't exist when Microsoft started making Windows. They did not have a central management system by which to distribute applications. If they would have had the foresight for that, it would have been a very different world for them. They did not. So that's something they never had. And the internet, of course, is what makes having a central repository management system much more possible. So the concept in Linux becomes more secure out of the box when you use package management, because I only trust packages that have been produced with reproducible builds. So we'll actually look at what that is. And it means I can verify the source code. So if we go to Debian, reproducible builds. And what this means is we take the source code that is open to the public. And then you're like, but is the source code what was used to make my package? Well, that's what this answers. So we go through and we make sure that the source code used was the one that built the package. Then the package is signed by the CA system, the certificate authority of Debian. Now, because it's being signed by Debian's checksum, by Debian's code, and everything matches, you had Debian. Now you don't have to worry about it. So there's a chain of trust. We have the open and visible code. We then have the reproducible builds to make sure the binary matches the code I downloaded and loaded onto my system. And then we have a checksum and the trust rings, I believe is what they're referred to. So we have, what does my system trust? Now, let's go a little bit further. How does that work in the Microsoft world? Microsoft allows updates to be loaded from Microsoft. They have signatures. Asus has a signing certificate. They have to, not like you have to allow it on your Microsoft machine, but you have to, by default, allow trusted certificates to install software. By the way, Microsoft just has a really simple little thing that pops up. We've probably all seen it. Are you sure you want to run this application? It doesn't have a proper signature. You may have seen that. Asus is a trusted, authorized signer of software. Therefore, it can just be installed. And therefore, the Microsoft machines trust it. Let's bring it over to the Debian world. How do we get a binary update for things like firmware? Well, actually, the Linux Foundation has a firmware update management system where they're doing some verification. So if you push things in, because it's all trusted through a single trust model versus Microsoft has a delegated trust model by trusting all the individual companies instead of them submitting to a central repository that gets audited, and the fact that the source is closed and trying to centrally audit everyone else's closed source code under some type of code escrow agreement would be an insurmountable task, not easy and not easy to pull off. And hence we end up with, you never really know with the Microsoft machines whether or not you're secure, versus when I built, and we'll look at the forum server. How did I build the forum server? I logged in, grabbed only the packages I needed, and then you grab those packages and you compile them, and then you lay framework on top of that. Now, this does not mitigate code bugs and problems found in code, but I can trust all the code that I built my server with top to bottom. All that code was signed, all that code was pulled from the repositories existing, and then it's just a web server and everything else that runs on top of it. So now I know from top to bottom, I have all the things that I need to trust it. And I don't have to worry about someone inserting something in that wasn't in the publicly viewable code. Now, like I said, this is where this is a long explanation, and I thought about even doing, if I can have someone maybe draw up some infographics or something, or maybe do some explanations of trust chains in more depth to create a more visual appeal for this. But this is what makes because everything is, trusted on these signatures, this is what makes Linux so solid. But doesn't mean you can't goof up a Linux box. And let's explain that. You can add, for example, other repositories outside of the Debian repository. If you were to do so, you are now subject to everything that comes in from those repositories. Let's say I added Steam to my computer here, or I added any closed source stream into here and I added its signature to the trust system. I now am trusting Debian and whichever other companies I've included in there. That's where things can go wrong. So for server side and for my workstations that I use for business, I only have a very limited amount of things I'll ever put in here. I say limited, and the reason why is because I'm running Pop! OS right now. So the things that are in my Pop! OS, let's talk about what do I trust in Pop! OS. Actually, what do I trust? Let me look. So if we look in there, Pop! OS trusts, let's see, so cd/, I'll get it on the screen here in a second. I just got to make sure nothing personal is on the screen. The apt. There we go. Here's everything that's in my trust list for my sources under apt. And what we have here is the Ubuntu. So we have the Ubuntu trusted. So we got that trusted, Archive Ubuntu, US Ubuntu, Archive Ubuntu, and then Pop, proprietary. Now the Pop ones are because we're trusting a couple things that Pop sends out as well, because this starts with Ubuntu, Pop adds a few things, and then compiles this into the distribution I'm using. So here's all the places I trust. If any software on my computer is not from said places, I don't install it. I'm only pulling from repository. This is what helps keep you secure when you're running a Linux machine. And this is where you can also, if you were adding, for example, Steam on Linux or something like that, that's where you're going to have even more problems because now you're trusting third party again. I recommend a different computer completely if you plan on doing business with it and games with it, because this can get you in trouble. Matter of fact, I seen this. Conquer Server compromised. So this was a kind of segues back into other security. Where is it at? That's command and control. I'm looking for command and conquer. There was a botnet recently. Find it in the news. Oh man, where is it? I know it was in one of the news things I seen, but anyways, older version of I believe it was Command and Conquer was compromised, and this comes back to that security problem. If you're using the same computer for playing video games as you're using for doing business work, this is that crossover that there shouldn't be. There should be a separate computer, a separate system for that, so the two things don't coexist on there. Because I like games. But that's why I play no games, and there's a boring list of repositories and boring software on my computer, because this is for security work. This is for protecting my clients, protecting my business, which means it doesn't have all the other stuff on there. So, yeah. Yes. So, as Dax pointed out, so for 10 years, Heartbleed and OpenSL would have been packaged by the system and bought. See, this is a code flaw. That's a code flaw as opposed to malicious injection. So there's a very different thing. There's going to be code flaws. There's code flaws all the time. There's 0 days all the time. We're finding bugs all the time in code. We apt-get update and it's fixed. Because the code gets fixed, it pulls in a repository. That's a different twist on it. That's going to happen no matter what software you run. You're going to have code flaws. Software has become immense, and it's so many things involved with writing code, and there's so many packages and there's so many lines of code that make up this computer alone, let alone expanded to the internet. So you're always going to find code flaws, but malicious injection like you have with the Asus hack, way different, very different, because someone intentionally put an attack surface in, put a command and control system in to attack. So they're very different things. That just doesn't happen in the open source world for any of these major packages. Are brand new computers from Dell safe? Anytime, and this is my security friends, we all do the same thing. We don't even bother booting new computers with whatever came on them. We grab a USB, load Linux, wipe them. I don't even boot them up. I don't care. Whatever they ship with is not relevant to me. Even if I order one from System 76, and I get a beautiful, and if you're not familiar, Jay's doing a review on one of the System 76 laptops, but even if I get something from System 76, like the Galago, I think he's got one of these he's working on a review for. Nice little great laptop, very cool. I'm going to wipe it. I'm going to wipe it clean and finish loading it when I set it up. I want to make sure the whole drive is encrypted. I have my process. So as soon as I grab this computer, whoever I buy it from, even a great company like System 76, I still wipe them. So are they safe? Yeah, as long as you wipe them. That's my opinion. Wipe them right from the rip. Make your life easier. So yeah, if you want a new Dell, wipe it. You want a new Lenovo, wipe it. You buy a System 76, even though it's shipped with Linux right out of the box from a company that has its own Linux distro, wipe it. It's a good thing to do. See what else. The exact issue with the wrapper fixes Steam. Finding a clean computer to wrap it sucks. If you need to spin up a brand new computer to wrap your exe files. Yeah, I mean, it is. Yeah, I mean, console gaming's another thing, honestly, and I'm a big fan of the same way that me and of course Jay LaCroix from, if you haven't been there, let me pull it up, make sure everyone knows about Jay. He has Learn Linux TV. Who complains that I'll turn the ad blocker off for you, Jay. There you go. So Learn Linux TV, Jay. We both love some of the retro gaming and things like that. So it's funny, we have RetroPies. We're playing with them. We were playing with the RetroPie and a screen sitting on there on a tabletop. That's definitely my preferred way, because I like a lot of the retro games. I have my only Windows computer I own is a separate Windows computer that is dedicated for playing video games. That's my Windows computer. I don't consider it trusted. I never use it for work. There's nothing work related ever. I don't log in even to my email on it. It's a computer dedicated for just doing that. That's my solution for it. Yes, and I have a Switch I think is pretty cool. So it's pretty straightforward. So I keep them separate. Keep anything that's running proprietary code or has more lax rules because you trust it. And I'm not saying there's anything in the Steam store, but if there ever was, you don't want those two things to cross. Matter of fact, if you want to grab your tinfoil hat and wrap it real tight around your heads, I am not an expert on this. I've thought about doing it. A reasonably secure operating system is Cube's OS. Reasonably secure is tongue-in-cheek joke. Cube's OS actually puts everything in a series of VMs. We're talking like picture your browsers, different browsers running in different VMs, the operating system running in a different VM. So everything runs in disposable VMs. Because of this, it can create some challenging to use, but it's also fascinating because when you see as a window, they see as separate virtual machines with a central hypervisor tying them together. This is a really interesting way to sandbox every application you start up with and you can destroy it. So running Counter-Strike servers, you're right. I said Command and Conquer, but it's Counter-Strike servers. I'll cover that in a second. So it's one of those things you go through and Cubes has that ability to create disposable VMs for every piece. Every app gets to run its own VM. So that's definitely a really neat way to handle it. My problem, then the reason I'm not running Cubes as much as I think it's pretty cool, it has a lot more challenges than I have time for my daily workflow. Having one single OS that's Ubuntu based is easy. My Kden Live video editor works fine, which is all open source. So I can do my full open source editing workflow, my audio editing workflow for SMLR or other related projects, and my work stuff on one computer with no extra repositories needed to make all of this happen. And by the way, OBS, open source and running. This is apt-get install OBS, all pulled from repositories. So that fits my workflow. When you start virtualizing everything into a container, OBS would have trouble talking to some of the other things by itself, therefore creating a lot of issues. So it would be kind of a problem. And let me find the news because there's probably it. Yep, Counter-Strike spread malware. Zero-day exploit in Counter-Strike servers to spread malware. That's what happened here. Like I said, this is that risk of my gaming computer, and I tab back and forth between that. Bad idea. Just run them separate. If your gaming computer gets compromised, you're running it for your business, you're gonna have a bad time. So, when you do a release to Steam, you download a wrapper tool from Steam, run it on a computer package for Steam, so you can sell your games to Steam. Okay, I've never packaged them, so yeah. Someone wants to know my process for securing and wiping Linux Windows systems. Just the installer. There's not a whole lot on there, but I probably should make a video on how to lock down a Linux server. My rules are just in general, and it's not a long list. I have a list of packages I do like to install, personal preferences, but I also make sure I have a boot password on there. So maybe I'll just do a video, just run that. It's a short video, but BIOS password, boot password, hard drive password. That way, if you take my machine, all the data at rest is encrypted. And then on top of that, there's a home drive encryption and things like that you're doing at the OS level. So that, including I encrypt the swap, I encrypt everything. That way I never have to worry about where I save data. And for example, I'm sitting at my desktop. My desktop has more than one hard drive in it. Every hard drive in my system is encrypted. So if we pull up drag this over here. So if you notice when you're looking here, the only unencrypted thing attached to my computer, and it's because it doesn't support encryption, this H2N, if you're not familiar with that, that's the Zoom media recorder we record the show on, and the SD card on it's not encrypted. But all the data I copied from it, all encrypted. You notice these devdm and devdm wrapper, blah, 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 gvm root? That's because every piece of this computer from the time it boots is encrypted from the boot to the attached drives, like this one here. Here's my 3 terabyte data drive. Same thing, all encrypted. So that's, yeah. No, I'm running Pop! OS, not KDE anymore. But I did the same thing with KDE. I've gone back and forth. I really like the way Pop! OS does it. It just does a great job. It's just easy and simple for doing some of that. So yeah, SUSE Linux. Nope. I mean, have I ever tried SUSE? Not in the last 15 years, maybe longer. So I can't say never, but not in any recent times. It's been forever since I've tried SUSE. I don't distro hop, but I will tell you, if you're over at Jay from Learn Linux TV, he has a KD Neon Plasma. He likes distro hopping. Ubuntu Mate. He covers all the different Linux distros, and he does a better job than I will on it. So this is, let me click on his official YouTube channel. So it's all on YouTube, all of his reviews and everything else, and he covers lots of, details and Linux myths and things like that. So it's actually pretty good. And someone else had asked me, and I'd have to think about this because I realized I've been using Linux for, I want to say right around 2009 is when I got rid of Windows. And so I'm coming up on about 10 years of Linux usage here. I'm trying to find some evidence of when I actually got rid of Windows. And it's because I didn't write this day. It was not marked down in my calendar that this is when Tom stopped using it. But I'm going through some files and config files because I back up everything to see some of the oldest ones I have to find out. Because I've been running it for a long time, which also is why the getting started with Linux becomes harder, because I'm not teaching you something like I switched last week and here's my thoughts. I'm telling you, I switched 10 years ago. And yes, I deal with Windows all the time, and I'm driven bug nutty by it because of the, its UI and interface feels so clunky compared to using Linux and the command line. So yeah. And my ThinkPad X250 is my current system. It's a low-powered i5. And some people have asked me why I don't have a faster or nicer laptop, and it's mostly because I don't care. As long as it renders web pages good, that's what it's used for. Rendering web pages, opening up SSH terminals. That's it. That's its use. Testing lots of networks and doing diagnostics and face-palming connections all the time, trying to figure out why something doesn't work the way I expected it to work. So that's a lot of what happens, actually. And now we're going to do this. I just realized something's not running or is it running? Where'd it go? There we go. See if this will fire up. Yay, it fired up. All right, cool. VMs, filters, production, and we'll fire this one up too. I updated, and I'm going to do a separate video about this, but I'll mention it because people ask me all the time. I am running the latest version of FreeNAS. The 11.2U3 is out. It's available. I downloaded it. It actually seemed to have solved some. Notice all these pretty charts. Yeah, look at that. I was having a weird problem that seems to have gone away. So I did load this the other day. That's why I had a couple things not running on my my virtualization stack. But yeah, I like it. It works. I'll be doing some more videos on it and things like that. Actually, it seems a lot snappier, but there's more to that story that that's why I need to do a video, because it has to do something with some specific hardware problems that I had that are related not to FreeNAS, but to problems I was running into. So I'm going to be covering that. So, let's see. So what do we have here? I should find a total Linux noob to make videos with them. Most Linux tutorial vids assume a certain level of working knowledge, assuming the barrier to entry impossible. So I agree. Let's see. There is a site. Where is it called? Linux Journey. I'll throw this here. This is pretty cool. Learn the ways of Linux foo for free. This is a great basics of a few things, and I really like this. And this is where it's really hard. What do you want to know about Linux? That question, are you looking for command line stuff, or are you looking for ways of just using it? Because for the most part, I'm going to go open something up here. Like, we'll open up LibreOffice Calc here, drag it over. if you're a Windows user, if you're a Linux user, get how to use LibreOffice Calc. Here it is. So that's a lot of the usability. We grab the window and drag it, a lot of that. So do I cover it from that level there? Do I, what levels do I cover it from? How settings work? Or do we do getting started with the command line, the shell, and everything else, and how directory structures work? So, yeah, it can be challenging for sure. What do I think about snaps? I'm assuming you mean the package management stuff. The snaps are interesting, but the lack of repository means there's some trust issues with them, so that can be issues. Oh, okay. The problem email has to do with multipath I/O to data stores. Yeah, I'm not sure the answer to what you were looking for, though. I know the question you asked, but I don't know the answer. Post it in the forums. Way better. There's a lot of other people than me that are much smarter about some of those things. Uncle Joey says, what's write speeds to your FreeNAS box? I can maintain 100 megs a sec. Yeah, I don't see why I can't. I have a 10 gig connection to my FreeNAS box. So let's find a big file and copy it over. Well, let's do that right now while I'm sitting here. Because actually I have a bunch of crap I need to move over. So let me show you. You guys can watch my workflow of stupidity here. For reasons of some problems I had when rendering over what they refer to as GVS file system. So here's this stuff here. I just got these are all projects, and what I actually have to do sometimes is move them over. That's enough files, right? Oh man, I got a lot of them here. Wow. All right, so we cut, paste, and let's see how fast they go and what speeds we're getting here. These are all the videos uploaded. I moved them over to a different volume. So my sustained write is 200 megs a second. I know it's small. I don't really have an easy way to enlarge it. So I get about a sustained write of it's slowed down to about 180 megs a second. How's that? Is that reasonable? And this is off of a older machine. It's not that fast. And these are large files. Oh, it's slowing down, hitting some of the files. But I already know it'll go faster than this if this was an SSD. This is pulling from a spinning drive, landing on there, and my spinning drive that's encrypted with all of its overhead is more the problem than that. Because if I pull from my SSD, it pulls faster as I've done tests. It definitely can. Matter of fact, because the FreeNAS connects at 10 gig to my network, and my computer connects at 10 gig, but other people's don't, we've had multiple streams all hitting it at the same time, and it's not breaking a sweat. So it's able to move well over 100 megs a second. But because I don't have a RAID array here, the spinning drive can only push data out. You got to remember, 10 gig is faster than spinning hard drives. My videos are on spinning hard drives because it's cheaper. If someone, maybe one day I'll buy some terabyte SSDs. Like I need 3 terabytes of SSD to store local videos. Not likely it's going to happen, but if it does happen, then I would be able to move these even faster. So Unraid or FreeNAS, they're very hardware dependent. There's tuning involved in both to make sure you get the best speeds. You can have compatibility issues with FreeNAS and have low speeds. You can have compatibility with Unraid and have low speeds. Unraid's fine. I don't have anything against Unraid. I prefer FreeNAS. That's my preferred choice, so to speak. So Unraid transfer speeds are horrible. Like I said, I know there's people went back and forth about tuning it. Linus did an entire video about how he tuned his Unraid system. There's a lot of that goes on there. So yes, unified 10 gig router. Willie posted a video on that. And here's my thoughts. Let me pull it up. Oh, look, I'm live. So where is Willie? I know he just posted it. And show more. The official Unify post. Watch Willie's videos and everything. That's cool. I'm not going to play his video for you. They made the decision to halt production units of the USG X8 10 gig. Here's the thing, and this gets asked of me a lot. It's silly, but there's all the time people are like, well, why didn't you use a Unify router? Didn't you use a Unify router? And here's the simple answer for that. You know, if I wanted to put 2 IPs on a WAN, how do you do that on a Unify router? You edit a JSON file. You start breaking out the command line and changing it. I don't hate them. I don't think they're a security problem. I think they're lack of features and lack of the features. Those are the features. The lack of features, lack of good VPN, lack of a development path that makes me excited about them to say when these new features are coming. They're very basic. They work. So it just does the trick very, very well. So I don't use many of them, so their products I don't think sell very well, and most of the vendors and friends I know in IT, they kind of have the same thing. They go, it doesn't have enough features for me to do the things I want, so I have to go with pfSense, or I go with a different brand that has all those extended features. So they get rid of it, whatever. My guess is it wasn't selling very well, because if you're a company that's going to build 10 gig equipment in, I've done very large projects with Unify, and I think they're a great product line for all their Wi-Fi, their switching. It's even what we use at our stack here. But when our front end, our firewall, not because I think it's a security problem, just lacks the features that I want to put it at the front end of the security. And people with 10 gig pipes have a lot of things they want to do, and it's harder to do in some of the Unify versus a standard, some of the other firewalls out there. Someone said, why would I use KVM versus Zen? KVM isn't near as developed of a product line as Zen in terms of this because of the Zen Orchestra that's sitting on top. But I don't think KVM is bad. And the same thing, seeing someone say KVM is funny to me because I don't see many people ask it. Almost everyone's going Proxmox. It blows it away. It's better. And I don't really think so. I kind of like this. It's just, I just like the way this works. I like the way things are in here. I love how fast I can spin something up. Matter of fact, I need to spin up this because I need to boot this one up because it runs on that same one. So where's the console at? There, Windows is booting up. And Zen Server, even Jay Learn Linux TV has a bunch of videos on Proxmox and everything else. He really likes Zen Server too. And it's because of how fast it works, how I can orchestrate things. And I'll give you an example. We have a client we consult with. They're using Zen Orchestra to manage 3 data centers that are in different locations. Zen Orchestra is the glue on top of Zen Server that allows you to do things and move stuff around and all the features it gives you for Zen Server. And it allows you to do it in a very different way because it's done through a web interface. And we're talking, I've a few friends that work for some ISPs where Zen is still alive and well and kicking, and they're talking about shuffling around with automation thousands and thousands of virtual machines across different servers, across data centers, very easily with one web interface, and being able to script that and move them. And for example, I can just shuffle the VMs over to another machine in a matter of seconds, restart that machine in the pool, move them back over, and it's just so easy to do. It's also how I run all my demos. So here's some tools I was using. Here's the Debian base that I have. So let's say I spin this up real quick. It just works so well, so fast to get something up and running and done. So, here it is booting. Only takes a few seconds to boot. By the way, you guys were watching when I booted these other servers, like where did the other one go? The Windows box, which probably has updates because it was off for a little while. Yeah, it's still chewing. It's Windows. It had updates. But concurrently with everything else running, here's this one I just started. And all this is also on the back end. These are all running off of this as the central server for everything. VMware Hyper-V are fine if you want to use them. They're expensive and licensed. Hyper-V is okay. Comes back down to Windows licensing and everything else. So if you have all the Windows licenses or all the licenses for VMware, awesome. But why not use, what advantage do they give me other than I have to run them all in Windows boxes? So if you have something else running with a, if you have like a series of Linux boxes and everything else, it all depends on licensing. If you want to license everything off Microsoft and pay their fees, awesome. That works for you. Hyper-V's built in, so yeah, it works great for the Microsoft world, especially if you already have an enterprise license that comes with that. And the same thing with VMware. Big license fees for what benefit do I get for those license fees? We use them. We have clients that we maintain with VMware. It works. I don't have a problem with it. But if I'm going to choose from bare metal on up and it's my choice, I'm going to choose the other ones. It's kind of simple like that. So, this is booted. Here's the network stack on this. Here's the network it's on now. I can just hit a pull down, swap networks. It makes things so easy through this web interface to move things around, to move it over to another server. I don't know. I just like how it works, and it's really easy. And it's easy for my staff to when we want to build labs and fun things like that. It just makes it pretty convenient. And this is not running on some incredible hardware. These are some older R710s paired together that this all runs on. I have a lot of in-depth videos of Zen, but sometimes you're splitting hairs. I mean, if you want to run something else, you can. Why not use VMs on FreeNAS? That's an undeveloped product. That's why. When they're ready, it's not the same running on here. They're not as flexible. They don't have all the built-in live migrations, everything else. Bare Metal Hyper-V available at no cost. Yeah, but it doesn't have the features. Bare Metal Hyper-V doesn't have the features that Zen Server does. Yeah, VMs on FreeNAS is Beehive, but it's just not as developed as a product. If I wanted to pass one of these VMs to a completely other server running, even if it's not part of my pool, that's just a button click. And I just move the VM to another server. Matter of fact, that's how I built my VMs that I had for home. I brought my VM server when I built it here. Before I left, I attached it to the network, and I said, send those virtual machines to that. It just sends them all over there, and I take it home when they're done. We do the same thing when we prep client work. We'll have the client server here. We can load Zen server on it. We can build their VMs, have them ready, and we just push them over. Same thing, we have another client we're doing an update for. We take their current VM Zen server system, we get them a new one. We copy over the VMs we want. We can do live migrations without shutting the company down, so I don't have to wait till Saturday, and I can move and live migrate right them over there. So away you go. So yeah. Use Docker and TNSR, problem solved. Use money you save for Microsoft licenses. Yeah. So it works better. The live migration setting up in Hyper-V, it just doesn't feel as complete as it does in Zen Server. And it's still the Microsoft world. It's also closed source. If I can have open source, I feel a whole lot better. And the Zen Server hypervisor is well developed. There's a little company using it called Amazon. It still is the basis for the majority of the Amazon backend is based on that hypervisor and upstreamed into the code. So it's still a pretty solid product. It's in use everywhere. All these different ISPs use it extensively. It's a solid system. Yeah, I mean, if this is where I get aggravated with some people. I've had people tell me, well, I don't like this product because it doesn't work. And then you look at what they've done. They've not RTFM'd. If you're not familiar with the product, yeah, that's going to be a problem. You can't blame if you've been working in Microsoft all the time and you're trying to make the change, it's going to be harder. You have to admit to yourself that you have to do some learning. You can't start with a product you don't know and blame the product for not being as clear. That's why I said I'm not blaming Microsoft on there, but yeah, I don't know. How do you manage? Is the Hyper-V? I've never really dug into the free version. What do you get with it? Is there limitations on there? Because I guess that's probably always what I'm curious. Because their licensing is always so confusing to me. Source VM, replica VM. The fact that they have pages of licensing tells me I probably don't want, because who knows, did I violate a license if I use it this way or that way? When you buy something or get something open source like this, I know I didn't violate a license because it's all GPL. I don't have to worry about these things. And then I don't, look at Citrix and their disaster they created. Citrix did the same thing. Citrix, like all these licenses and use cases, and I'm like, so no, it's just confusing. I don't want to deal with a bunch of confusing licensing from any of these companies. And VMware, granted, they've been around for a long time. They have a solid product line. Same thing. Licensing on VMware is not cheap. And if it doesn't do anything that Zen Server doesn't do, then why would I use it? I don't have a use case is what I'll go back to. Now I have clients that existing have it. I'm not a rip and replace guy, so we do support it. It's a good product. It does work, but yeah. Yeah, do not use FreeNAS in XCP-ng. That's not a great idea. I use FreeNAS is a separate physical box. FreeNAS for testing in XCP-ng, that's cool. FreeNAS for production, you want to give FreeNAS real hardware. So yeah. So Hyper-V and ACI are free are the same. You get a standalone host, no host functions, no HA, no central management, must log in direct. Well, you answered my question why I don't want to use it. I have to buy a license to do that. Please note, I've already got the pools set up, resource pools and everything. That's, yeah, easy to do, and that's for free. That is all built in here. So resource pools, and not to mention, I can use this one Zen Orchestra install and connect as many XCP-ng servers or even Citrix one if they're still around, all in one. So yeah. So you can do HA on Hyper-V. See, this is the confusion of Microsoft, because I Google it and I get a page talking about licensing. It didn't even come up with a Microsoft site when I... And the fact that, you know, trying to solve Microsoft licensing, you can get a degree in just that. It's probably, I think there's a Microsoft licensing certification as well. So yeah, these are one of the reasons I prefer open source models. And if you were to say Proxmox, I'd say great. I think Proxmox is awesome. Jace taught me a lot about it. I'm too deep into here to switch my entire stack of things I do. So yeah, So do I connect Zen server FreeNAS iSCSI? Yes, no. One FreeNAS server is connected iSCSI, one's connected. Actually, both right now are connected. Both my production ones, I moved over to NFS. I tested. I think I get only a couple % faster out of iSCSI, but it goes back and forth, depends on the workloads. So right now it's NFS as of right now, but I've gone back and forth. They both seem to work perfectly fine. So yeah, that's kind of my answer for things. Is it's easier. So I currently have it all on NFS. Matter of fact, let's look. Storage, Dozer. Yeah, this is Dozer NFS. This is an NFS share. So that's how that's all connected. Makes sense, hopefully. I got to do a backup video as well. People ask me how I back things up. I back them up in here. Once again, I can do full VM backups, but I also back them up like hourly. So that's going to be a video coming up. I just thought I'd mention it while I'm in here because I'm still using the same tools. I've talked about it. I've done an in-depth video on Backup NG and how it works. It's a great tool. I really like it. It comes with Zen Orchestra. It allows full VM backups. So it's an easy solution. If I wanted to back up my free PBX, I would just go here. I have it all. I don't have them on automated schedules because I only back them up as needed. But I just back them up, and this is what a backup looks like. So 7 minutes later, it's backed up. Done. And if I have to restore something, I got to remount the restore. That's a different issue. Yeah, there it goes. Took a second to mount. The restores are right here. If I wanted to restore something, I just click this and I can restore it immediately. That's complete VM images, backups, everything all done right here. It only takes a few minutes to do. So Navico backup, never heard of it, so I never used it. VMware backup, Hyper-V backup. Cool. See, I don't understand all the different backup tools, because if you're using like Zen Orchestra, like I was showing you here, here's how the backups work. You just go click and it backs up. Or I can automate this. I could change it to enabled and do it on a schedule. It's really easy to do. I just say back it up and it backs it up. So if I want to back up my Zabbix server and I can do it real time, we'll click here. Kate, are you sure you want to run the Zabbix backup? Sure. Here, we're going to back up my Zabbix server right now. There. It's doing a thing. It's backing up while we're doing this live stream and copying it to a separate server. That'll be then moved off site, then shuffled around. Away we go. So yeah. And then for all the data on them, there's a different strategy depending on what's on them, is how I do all the backups. Now, someone else asked, how do you back up all your, how do you update? How often? How often update? Update them all the time, real time. I do unattended upgrades for backup, for those. All the servers are running. There's one of the windows. Drag this over and change the terminal bigger. They're all running like this essentially. So here is the Discourse server. And in a Discourse server, apt-get install unattended upgrades. You see how it's running right now? It's already the newest version. So that's full. This runs in the background. Does it run as cron? Yes. SE. Is it daily? Somewhere in here. I forget where it runs out of. But yes, it runs all the time. It run tab. Nothing for, anyways, yes. It's absolutely all the time being updated, so it's constantly up to date. Now, whole distribution upgrades, those are done more carefully. That's an apt-get dist upgrade. I'm going to do those a little bit different, but I'm not. All the security updates are being applied as they happen. That way, I don't want to trust myself to make sure I'm running in and logging in every one of these servers you see here and applying all the updates. That's not reasonable. That's too much work. So yeah, I just did that. Someone asked though, go to my GitHub, and my GitHub has, I'm an open source guy, so if you want my command line, here you go. There you go. There's my GitHub where you can find things that I post. So there's my video. There's a video on it, like I said, and a what do you call it? So there's the video. There's a video you can find on it, but this is where you can get the .dot files for them. So it's got someone was nice enough to write a little installer. I always just copied them down and put them on there. Oh, see. Do I have premium support? Do you have premium support? I don't understand that question. What else do we have? Hi from Qatar. Hello from Qatar. Very cool. All right, we got that. You sold me on Zen over Hyper-V, ESI, some of my favorite stuff on your channel. Awesome, thanks. Debian recently gave me packet loss. Turns out it was SendMail package error caused DHCP renew nonstop. That's weird. I don't know why SendMail would cause a DHCP error. That's a strange problem. But the forums are helpful, not just my forums, but forums in general. ZoneMinder. Not many videos because I tried doing a video on ZoneMinder. I played around with it and I was like, oh, it's neat. It just feels incomplete. When I tried setting it up, I said, this is not, it's getting better. It's been at least a year since I tried it. I think it's neat. It just doesn't feel complete enough. It doesn't work. It didn't work very well when I tried it. I love their website's new, and maybe they've made a lot of code changes since then. Cool, but it didn't. I wasn't compelled by it to tell me that it was a great tool that worked well. Why are they doing this? I know that's IF top. Why are they showing IF top? Weird. It makes a good graphic, I guess. You've done some videos about Pi-hole. I know it isn't your specific use case running pfSense, but have you set up Pi-hole DNS using TLS? No, I have not. Like I said, I like pfSense. It's got Pi-hole built in, so I don't have to have two devices. I don't have to dedicate a $35 Raspberry Pi to it. What else does it feature? Use any security camera, monitor, run really small, super big system. There is another company. Let me find it. It's on my radar because I looked at it. I don't know if it's in my notes here. Security archive, encrypted treehouse. What in the world do I have here? I've got so many things. There we go. This looks neat. So I have not reviewed this, but someone sent this before to me. No, and by the way, Ronnie, you clearly read the headline and not that. So Amazon does not use KVM instead of Zen. They did not switch out the entire of the AWS infrastructure. They use it on their EC2 instances. So it's only a certain piece of it being used. So if we go Amazon, Zen, hypervisor, KVM, you'll find the article. From 7/2018, but if you read the details, not the headline, only their EC2 C5s are going to be using KVM. The rest of it still runs on Zen. So here's the article. There we go. So Amazon doesn't use KVM instead of Zen. That would be an improperly titled headline. There's lots of products that have OVAs. How do you deal with compatibility on Zen? I was playing with XCP&G and found I had to rethink how to deploy my guest hosts over the ESXi. That's actually pretty simple. We're going to go over here to new import, and you can select a OVA as an import. What is it here? There's OVA import. I don't do them very often, but you can import OVAs into Zen. I hope that helps. They do support it. The tool supports it as well. Let's see. Does UniFi Protect run well on Raspberry Pi? UniFi Protect only runs on the UniFi stuff. So UniFi Protect, that product only runs on the UniFi hardware. I have a video I'm going to be working on soon about that. What good security camera product? I don't know. Nothing affordable. I don't think that video is going to probably come out maybe tomorrow. UniFi still has a good product. There's not another competitor in the market that I can tell you to easily go with that'll fit all the needs that the UniFi does. So there's that. Oh, by the way, while we were doing this, if you're curious, 6 minutes, we backed up my Zabbix box. Here it goes. So 6 minutes, I backed up an entire virtual machine that runs my virtualized infrastructure, which is this. I've done a video on Zabbix before. So 6 minutes, back up an entire virtual machine that runs Zabbix. Actually, the machine this is on is called the Zabbix machine. It actually has a few other functions for testing in my business, but yeah, 6 minutes, done. Now it's being moved offsite with that whole VM file and everything else, et cetera, et cetera. So, what else was the questions we have here? Start closing all these windows before I get lost again. No, Zabbix is not SNMP. Zabbix is SNMP or agent-based. So in the case of pfSense, here's it looking differently, like CPU load, disk space, memory usage on pfSense. This is way deeper than SNMP. That's because these are running agents. Also, if we look at FreeNAS, let's see, this month, you can actually dig into things because I even have this running the agents as well. So I can look at the different network traffics, the way things are moved. So Zabbix is really cool. Zabbix will do really cool graphs and everything of things as long as it has agent, but it will also do SNMP as well, just so you know. So it's SNMP plus Zabbix agents for digging in and getting information on stuff. Yeah, Zabbix is very cool. I like it a lot. Do you think UniFi will adopt 4K higher cameras? They offer a 4K camera. I don't know if they're going to go 8K. UniFi only works with UniFi. UniFi software is only designed to work with UniFi. Now, this is a clever looking, which has a freemium service. So this is kind of cool. This is this other one. So they have a community edition that appears to be open source. I have not dug into the details of this, but this is Shinobi, and I'll link video. I want to test this and see how it works because it seems to be well documented. It's pretty. It's got cool ways it looks at the cameras. They got a, like I said, I so far from starting with it, and I believe they forked the original code from ZoneMinder. So I think it's cool. Shinobi open source, no license fee, GPL3. License fee for retail costs of monthly subscription, $75 a month. Camera limit, none. This is actually very reasonable to be able to get some updates and stuff like that. So I really do like it. I like the way it works. They seem to have a good concept around it. So I'm going to, at some point, take a look at this. I don't know that it would even come close to being even a small business server. I don't know yet. Probably not for the commercial. Some of the commercial clients we use, they spend a lot of money. And, I've talked about this before. ExactVision is one of the other ones we use. We have clients using this. It's a great enterprise system, but it's expensive. So you're going to spend some money buying this. It's really high end, but it does work. So that's definitely a thing. And my wife's messaging me, so it means I got to get off this stream pretty soon. She's not happy as I'm still here. Still streaming. Telling her that right now. I didn't recommend Unify for the USG 8 to begin with. I still don't really recommend it. If you're going to need that kind of SFP plus routing, build a pfSense box for it. That's still my recommendation. That hasn't changed. So it was before they announced it, it was pfSense. After they announced it, it's pfSense. So hopefully that helps. Let's see. All right. I think I've reached the end of all this. I mean, I could obviously go on forever talking and answering questions. Any final questions? Before you go, as a result, I am looking to give Netgate a lot of business. Thank you for your videos. Awesome. Netgate makes a solid product. When they're not doing Cisco style fixes, that's why I like open source when it comes to a lot of the firewalls. I get to see the code. I get to see what's going on. This is just a better methodology by which to handle things. News blog. There we go, blog. They're open about how they're doing it. They're expanding. They openly talk about stuff. This is how things should be done. I thought this was kind of cool too. And I did a video about this, about when you have to update Nginx and some of the other things, because specifically, as we know, code, we find flaws. They found flaws in Nginx. But this is where you can, when you have an open source firewall like this, instead of a monolithic firmware that you have to get downloaded, you can update the individual packages within it and have there. So yeah, pfSense you can run on virtualization, you can run on snapshots. Matter of fact, I will leave you guys this guide. I'm going to do a video on this soon because it is the guide I followed, and it is the pfSense Zen server. Where's it at? Maybe this person? I'll find a link. There's a GitHub link somewhere. Anyways, it's how to get your Zen server set up on there, and I know there's a GitHub version of this that's more recent than these. So, GitHub. Let's try GitHub as an add-on for there. Yeah, there we go. Look at this, November 2018. So I'll leave you guys this. Boom. And what this allows you to do is add a couple of the features you need to make it work better. So that, if you want to run it in there, so away you go. So when are we getting the history of the SMR show? Oh, soon that'll happen. We need to put that together because I don't even know all the history. I wasn't there from day one. I joined later. Tony is the original purveyor of all this, so he's the only one that can lead the entire discussion of history. But it will happen. So yeah, so hopefully that helps. You can run pfSense virtualized. Just going back up a couple of things. I know I jump topics sometimes, but yeah, we'll have all that. So Q&A over. Wife complaining that I'm not there with. Because I'm at here, but here is only 3 miles from where I live, so that's my next step, is to go home. She says she's hungry. I'm hungry too. I haven't eaten. My day, I will do some day in a life if you want to know what I do, because I want to be as honest and open. And what do I do as a business owner? What do I do when I get up in the morning? How does all that work? It's it's just it's a mess of stuff. What video program do I use? What is that called? Yet another. I use a series of different editors. YED, that's what it's called. There we go. No, it's not open source, but it works in the browser, and I like it. So, yeah, day in the life. My morning starts, I'm all over the place, and I had a couple of times I thought about it because I put in a 23-hour workday to coordinate big projects I was working on. So yeah, a 23-hour workday was a bit much for me. I don't do that often, but there are days that I just have a stream of things, and it's, between my thoughts on, and I'm willing to share this. I'm not a cool guy like Gary Vee where I can have someone just follow me around and film it. So I got to figure out how to put this together. Yes, you heard that right. I work 23 straight hours on a project because I'll go without sleep. That's just my eccentric behavior. But it happens sometimes. My day mostly starts between 4 and 5 a.m. I randomly wake up between 4 and 5:30 a.m. every morning, and I go to bed at midnight every day. So I thought about making some videos about what that process is, all the reading I do. I'm an obsessive reader. I don't watch a lot of TV, so I thought maybe I'll talk about some of those things. And I don't watch any real sports or anything. So it's not that I have any problem with people who watch sports, but because I don't, people say, where do you find the time? It's actually, there's always time because I'm not doing some of the other things, and I read a lot. Matter of fact, I'll show you, I did a video on this a long time ago, and this has come up a couple times. Let me find a long article where someone wrote something that's, too many windows open again. So let's just take this. This is a good one. There's a lot of reading here. So people ask me about reading, and this is my reading method in the morning while I drink my coffee. I find articles that I read, and I read them about this. I usually set this to about 900, or sometimes, depends on how complex the article is for comprehension. But this is a really cool tool that lets me read. Let me pump it up about 900. But it allows you to sit in one place, and I drink my coffee like this, and I stare at the screen, and this is how I push information into my head. So I read a lot, but this is also how I read, and this makes it easier to read without trying to scroll through pages and ads. You notice how I got rid of all the cruft, and it's only this. This is my, I should try to do an updated video on this. This is called Sprint Reader, and it's great for reading articles. I don't like it for reading any type of code. As you can see, it's mangling some of the code that's in here, but from the some of the other parts of it, from terms of doing that, it works really, really well. Wife has to want to be home. So, yeah, this is I don't know if it's really a tip or trick. It's a cool tool, but it's called Sprint Reader. You can find it. It's free. Sprint. I've done a video on it forever ago, like 2 or 3 years ago. There you go, Sprint Reader. You guys are interested in it. You might be reading. Now retention is that's a per person problem. Some people retain very well, some people do not. I don't know. I think of myself as someone who retains very well, but like I said, that's a subjective thing. I watch some people, they read it once and just they're locked into it, and other people don't. So I don't think it matters how fast you read. I don't think the speed at which you read something controls the retention. But when you're reading stuff, retention does directly have to do with your knowledge on it. So handing you a complicated thing to read, if you don't understand the technologies that they're talking about, you'll have less retention. But I'm also not a psychoanalyst, so I don't always think as much in depth about that. as other people might. So I've not done any conclusive studies, and I'm very much I never like to do things on a gut feeling. I will actually subjectively create statistics on something if I want to know, because I think that's the best way to do it. Like, this is a statistics. This is you'd have to do like a series of give me something to read and do it. And I bring this up as an example because you asked about retention. If you were to give me even a few articles on gardening, I'm not, I probably wouldn't retain it very well. So, as I don't know the basis of it, so if you gave me, a specific gardening thing, but if it's on a Linux-related topic, if it's on a cybersecurity or things that in the space that I work in technology, I'm going to retain it better. Video editing is achieved with Kdenlive, which I'll drag it over here real quick. I love Kdenlive. They just did another code sprint. They are excellent. It is so easy for video editing. I got a few videos on this. It's how I drop everything in. Kdenlive works wonderful. It's my video editor of choice. Of the 700 something videos on my channel, only a handful aren't done with Kdenlive. Almost 100% of the videos on my channel, at least 98% of them are done with Kdenlive, maybe even higher. Unfortunately, it doesn't store metadata of which videos I didn't edit with Kdenlive. I just know I edited a handful of them with a tool called OpenShot. Before my earliest videos, I know were OpenShot. I don't remember when I switched, but a long time ago. OpenShot's another good video editing tool. It's definitely excellent. Once I learned Kdenlive, I liked it better. Kdenlive has a lot more features than OpenShot. It's more in depth, but if you want to get started, I'm going to tell you OpenShot is excellent. It's easier to use than Kdenlive, and for some people, it may fit their needs. I had a few advanced needs that made me move over to the other one, so that's where I'm at now. So I think that covers it. I don't know. I can't think of anything else. I'm sure you can. Join my forums. The forums, I spend a lot of time. I try to answer everybody's questions in here, keeping up with it. I also keep the forums up to date with the latest versions. So that's, yeah. Improve typing. Oh, there's improve my typing. I won't lie. Tux typing's great. There's a few different typing tutorials out there. I don't know. I haven't used Tux typing forever. My kids, I taught them how to use it in the earliest days of Linux. But yeah, the definitely, I don't know. There was let's see, browser typing game browser. I remember seeing a couple of them really cool. I don't know. I have to look. I don't want to just send you. There's a few of them that were typing games, HTML-based typing, Type Racer, Type Attack. I don't know which ones are good. Yeah, that one looks like remove ads. I don't know. Try one of those typing things. Take a typing class. I'm not lying. There's online ones that would probably be very helpful for that. Booking software. I don't understand the question for booking. As you see videos from Tom, a couple months, wife is going to kill him. Yeah. Yeah, Sprint Reader is, yes. Read faster, fall asleep. What I want to find is, I want to find something on my phone that works as good as Sprint Reader. I don't know. I didn't look. Do they have a phone app at all? No. I want to find a phone app that works as well so I can read things like that, because I would love to just be able to hold my phone and zone out like this and have it just push words, because I could just hold my phone. Because scrolling on a phone's hard. You can lose your place and things like that. So Type Shark, someone says their favorites. Let's look at Type Shark. Oh, it's on Steam. Cool. Hey, whatever works for you, whatever has you learning how to type better. I type horribly if I don't multitask at all. So yeah, that's not, no one really does. Maybe some people slightly do, but for the most part, if you watch me fumble through typing and talking and interacting, hard. When you watch me work, when I'm zoned out, just in the zone working, I type fast. I just get super distracted trying to do both at the same time. I am going to do a video that answers this question, though. This is, you said alternative QuickBooks and open source. My Money is what I use. No, it is not as complete as QuickBooks. Sorry, I can't even name something that's as complete. But I'm running a company reasonably large, not large, reasonably a lot of invoices and things like that. A business, I'm a legit business, I guess, with employees and staff and billing. And between KMyMoney and Invoice Ninja, those are the two tools I use to run my business in terms of the financial side of it. KMyMoney does my ledger. Invoice Ninja does all my invoicing. So that is what works for me. There are other more enterprise systems out there, but they're even more complex. But between the two of these, this solves it scratches that itch and puts all my accounting together. I know where I'm at. I have and if you're asking about like individual breakdowns for job costing, that's all still done in a series of spreadsheets if we need to, if that matters for us. But Invoice Ninja combined with KMyMoney for ledger, and KMyMoney does support bank previews. I really like it. I can do bank login. I can do not bank login, but import all my bank account information, everything else. It works great. So I'm happy with it. I've been using it now since 2012. So I've got 7 years of accounting records in it. And yeah, it works great. It lets me know, I do P&Ls monthly, profit and loss statements, and it lets me know how much I lose or make each month. And last month was bad. I lost a lot of money. So I was funding projects, and I self-fund projects. So sometimes I lose a lot of money. I'm putting my shoes on because I think I got to get ready to leave. Thank you for everyone who followed me on the live stream and hung out for, how long was this going for? I've just been babbling on for quite a while. How many minutes? Does it tell me? Probably a whole lot. I don't know. It tells me in the end just how many. Oh, hour 26. Wow. Yeah, Invoice Ninja is awesome. If you don't want to stand up a server for Invoice Ninja, just go to, I've got an offer code below, but go to, if you want to help out the channel, it doesn't cost you anything. You can get the free version. But yeah, check out Invoice Ninja. Awesome system. Real happy. It's how we do things. And we have, let me pull up Invoice Ninja. You guys can't, it's not for public consumption. I'll tell you how many invoices we have in it. Invoice number 22,469 was created on March 29th. I'm looking at the latest invoices created over on the other screen. So 22,469 invoices. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, we use it. So because we imported some of our old invoices, we only started using it over a year ago, but we did import some of our old invoices. So we only created the last few thousand, maybe, I don't know, several thousand of them are from Invoice Ninja. I'd have to break down the breakdown to give that. But I've talked about it. There's a lot of data in here, over 6,000 customers, all these invoices, and it works great. So hopefully that's it. Awesome. Thank you. I am out of here before the phone. If you hear that noise again, that's the wife and she's angry. All right. Bye.